Going the extra mile is generosity, charity, and forgiveness. One evening, a family went out to dinner at a local restaurant. Everyone got the menu cards, but the little boy Johnny, who was just 6 years old, did not receive the menu. Since the adults were discussing among themselves, Johnny was feeling a bit ignored. When the waitress came to take orders, she noticed Johnny was a little sad, and so she came to him and asked him, "What would you like to eat, little boy?" His mother interrupted and said, "He will have chicken and rice." The waitress waited a little, had a smile at his mother, and then looked at the boy and asked again, "What would you like to have, dear?" He said, "I will have hamburger and French fries." And his mother nodded her head with a pleasant smile. The waitress said, "I will bring them in a minute," and took other orders and moved towards the kitchen. The boy was delighted. He turned to his mother and said, "You know, she thinks I am important." He was delighted not because he got the food he wanted, but because the waitress acknowledged his presence, his opinion, and listened to him. Have you ever felt ignored, taken for granted in your life? Do you ever feel you don't matter, you don't count, as if no one cared about anything you had to say? We live in a world of indifference, and the world needs people who are ready to go the extra mile. In the Gospel according to St. Matthew, chapter 5, verse 41, Jesus says, "If anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go also the 2nd mile." Going the extra mile would mean going beyond norms and principles to help others for the sake of Jesus. That is, going a step further than doing something that a person deserves. It is doing something more than just fulfilling one's duty. We can also call it going out of your way to help someone in need. In the Gospel according to St. Matthew chapter 5, verse 40, Jesus said, "If anyone wants to sue you and take your coat, give your cloak as well." According to Jewish customs, the tunic was the long sack linen inner garment made of cotton or linen. Even the poorest man would have a number of tunics. The cloak was the blanket-like outer garment which a man wore as a robe by day and used as a blanket at night. The Jew would have only one of such garments. Now it was actually the Jewish law that a man's tunic must be taken as a pledge, but not the cloak. The law in the book of Exodus chapter 22 was that if you take your neighbor's garment, you shall restore it to him before the sun goes down, for that is the only covering. It is his mantle for the body. The point is that by right, a man's cloak could not be taken permanently from him. So when Jesus is asking us to give even your cloak, he is asking us to go the extra mile. Nelson Mandela's name is synonymous to forgiveness in South African history. It was forgiveness towards his nation's wrongdoers that he used as a weapon against the oppressive regime. This led to a transformation of relationships and a positive change and peace in his beloved country. His forgiveness is considered heroic because his forgiveness after 27 years of imprisonment put an end to a possible civil war and established peace and equality. He said, "Forgiveness liberates the soul. It removes fear. That is why it is such a powerful weapon." Every human being has the right to justice. Therefore, forgiveness given to someone who has done something wrong to you is also going an extra mile. You go out of yourself to forgive someone. Jesus tells us, if anyone strikes you on the right cheek, turn the other also. In Jewish culture, getting slapped with the back of the hand was the ultimate insult. We are not supposed to take upon ourselves to retaliate even when insulted. The book of Leviticus chapter 10 verses 1 and the following speaks about the rule of love. You shall not bear hatred for your brother or sister in your heart. Love your neighbor, love your parents, show charity to poor, and do justice in social dealings. The Lord invites us to partake of His holiness by going the extra mile. It is an invitation to rise above human standards to a life of holiness. St. Paul reminds us that we belong to Jesus and that we are called to be holy. In his first letter to the Corinthians, chapter 3, verse 17, we read, "For God's temple is holy, and you are that temple." It is through generosity, charity, and forgiveness that we can achieve this holiness. Let us strive to be holy by going the extra mile. Let us proclaim with the psalmist, "The Lord is compassionate and gracious, slow to anger and rich in mercy."